Ray Walston was a man whose career defied categorization, spanning theater, film, and television, with an energy that seemed to know no bounds. From his humble beginnings in small-town Mississippi to earning a Tony Award for his devilishly iconic role in Damn Yankees, and later captivating television audiences as Uncle Martin in My Favorite Martian, Walston's story is one of remarkable transformation and unrelenting dedication. But what drove this son of a lumberjack to the heights of Broadway and Hollywood? How did he balance his comedic genius with the dramatic depth that earned him accolades late in his career? And what lies behind the quiet resilience of a man who faced personal and professional challenges with unwavering grace? This video delves into the life and legacy of Ray Walston, exploring the highs of his celebrated performances, the challenges of typecasting, and the untold determination that kept him in the spotlight for over 6 decades. Join us as we uncover the fascinating journey of an actor who left an indelible mark on American entertainment. Herman Raymond Walston, born on November 2, 1914, in Laurel, Mississippi, entered the world at a time and place steeped in the rustic, hard-working traditions of the American South. He was the second son in a family of 3 children, with his older sister Carrie and older brother Earl. His father, Harry Norman Walston, worked as a lumberjack, a dangerous and physically demanding occupation that took advantage of the region's abundant pine forests, while his mother, Mittie Walston, tended to the home and watched over the children. Growing up in Mississippi during the early part of the 20th century meant living in an environment where agriculture and lumber were primary industries. Moreover, African American cultural influences in music, language, and religion would have been woven into the tapestry of his childhood surroundings, offering a dynamic, though often deeply segregated, cultural backdrop. By the mid-1920s, the Walston family had relocated to New Orleans, Louisiana. It was a city defined by its jazz clubs, its lively dance halls, and a theatrical culture that was developing both on the recognized stages and on the streets, where performers and brass bands drew locals and visitors alike. In this exciting environment, Herman Raymond Walston, who would later become better known simply as Ray Walston, caught an early glimpse of the world of performance. As a child, he took on modest tasks in local theatrical venues, starting off as what he liked to call a spear carrier. In the theatrical world, a spear carrier is a term for someone who stands in the background or plays a silent role, rounding out the cast but not necessarily commanding the spotlight. In his case, it was the perfect entry point. He swept floors, helped prepare props, sold tickets, or did whatever small jobs were needed for the production. It was a start, though few could have predicted that this quiet boy from a lumberjack's household would one day win a Tony Award and achieve iconic status on both stage and screen. The allure of performance captured Ray from an early age. While most children in his position might only dream of becoming an actor, he dove headfirst into the lifestyle of traveling shows and stock companies. It was an era when vaudeville tours and theater troupes were an essential part of America's entertainment fabric. These stock companies traveled from city to city, performing in unheated halls or small playhouses, testing the mettle of all involved. Ray found that even when he only appeared in small, often fleeting roles, this was where he gained valuable experience. He also learned the daily grind. An actor's schedule often demanded punishing hours, rehearsals for multiple shows at once, and a willingness to pivot from comedic plays to tragedies. Each production might be short-lived or it might tour for months, but every new experience sharpened Ray's instincts and gave him more stage presence. Around 1938, his family moved to Dallas, Texas. Given that theater in the region was still blossoming, Dallas might have offered more promise than Mississippi or Louisiana for a young hopeful. Ray joined a repertory theater company under the guidance of the influential director Margot Jones. Jones was a groundbreaking figure in American theater, credited by many historians for pioneering the arena stage and cultivating new American plays. She offered a nurturing environment for new actors and demanded a high level of commitment. Ray became a favored member of her troupe. He stepped into a wide array of roles and allowed himself to be molded by her vision. Working under Jones's direction proved to be a crucial stepping stone in building his skills. He stayed at the Houston Civic Center for about 6 years, a stretch in which he reportedly performed an average of 12 roles per year, a testament to his remarkable work ethic and adaptability. Eventually, Ray left Texas for Cleveland, Ohio. There, he spent 3 years at the Cleveland Playhouse, known for its artistic ambition and dedication to new and old works alike. By the time he arrived, the Great Depression had ended, and the cultural fervor of post-war America was stirring. The Cleveland Playhouse was a sophisticated institution that prided itself on professional-level theater and educational outreach, so Ray's tenure there allowed him to polish his craft even more. In 1945, after these formative experiences, he made the bold move to New York City to further pursue his theatrical ambitions. Broadway was the ultimate goal for a stage actor of that era, and he made his Broadway debut in Maurice Evans's production of the G.I. Hamlet. This was a unique version of Shakespeare's masterpiece pitched to resonate with audiences still reeling from the experiences of World War II. Ray was only a minor figure in that production, but it announced his arrival on New York's grand theatrical scene. In 1948, he gained greater credibility and a sense of camaraderie when he became one of the first members admitted to the newly formed Actors Studio. The Actors Studio, founded by Elia Kazan, Cheryl Crawford, and Robert Lewis, would go on to define a whole method and approach to acting focusing on emotional truth and deeply internalized performances. Such an environment was fertile ground for an actor like Ray, whose work ethic and willingness to explore new techniques made him a perfect candidate for method-based training. The following year, in 1949, Ray appeared in a short-lived play titled Mrs. Gibbon's Boys, directed by George Abbott. Although the play itself didn't enjoy a lengthy run, it proved instrumental in connecting Ray with Abbott, who would later cast him as Mr. Applegate, an embodiment of Satan, in the 1955 musical Damn Yankees. This was Ray's ticket to major recognition. Opposite Gwen Verdon as the irresistibly seductive Lola, Ray commanded the stage with a devilish grin and comedic timing that was widely praised. The chemistry between Walston and Verdon propelled the show to become a Broadway triumph, and critics and audiences alike took note of Walston's comedic wit and theatrical magnetism. His performance earned him serious acclaim, culminating in the Tony Award he received, an honor that placed him in the upper echelon of Broadway performers. Amid this string of successes, Ray also took on roles in other notable productions, including South Pacific. In 1951, he starred as Luther Billis in the London production of this Rodgers and Hammerstein classic, adding to his already impressive resume. Later, he reprised this same role in the 1958 film adaptation, which allowed a massive audience to witness his performance. In fact, he and Juanita Hall, who portrayed Bloody Mary, were the only two cast members to appear in both the stage production and the subsequent movie. Between these engagements, he racked up a variety of stage credits, including appearances in The Front Page, Summer and Smoke, King Richard III, Wish You Were Here, and House of Flowers. His continued collaboration with names like Rodgers and Hammerstein and with influential producers such as George Abbott, reinforced the sense that Ray Walston was becoming an indispensable figure in mid-century American theater. Sometimes overshadowed in popular memory is the fact that Ray also had a prominent role in the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical Me and Juliet, where he portrayed the stage manager in the musical within a musical, although he never performed any of its songs. Another interesting footnote in his career came about when actress and producer Katharine Cornell selected him for a role in a Broadway staging of Robert E. Sherwood's Pulitzer Prize-winning play about the Hungarian Revolution of 1956, titled There Shall Be No Night. That production was later adapted for television as part of the prestigious Hallmark Hall of Fame series, marking one of Ray's earliest forays into the televised medium. After more than a decade of success in New York theater, Ray Walston turned to film work. He revisited his devilish persona, Mr. Applegate, in the 1958 movie adaptation of Damn Yankees. He also accumulated an impressive number of film credits: Kiss Them for Me, South Pacific, Say One for Me, Tall Story, Portrait in Black, The Apartment, Convicts 4, Wives and Lovers, and Who's Minding the Store? Working at a prolific pace, he developed a reputation as a versatile character actor capable of transitioning from comedic roles to dramatic turns with ease. He also took part in Billy Wilder's comic farce Kiss Me, Stupid, co-starring Dean Martin and Kim Novak. This only happened because after 6 weeks of shooting, the originally cast Peter Sellers had to withdraw from the film due to a heart attack. Ray's life was full of these near-chance opportunities that ended up altering his career trajectory. Beyond the realms of stage and film, Ray also narrated several nuclear test film series for the United States Department of Defense and the Atomic Energy Commission, such as the Operation Hardtack films of 1958. During the Cold War, these educational and often propagandistic documentaries sought to inform, or sometimes reassure, the American public about the nature of nuclear tests being conducted. His involvement in them is evidence that Ray's voice, presence, and reliability as a performer were recognized beyond strictly entertainment contexts. He was seen as a trusted narrator who could strike the right tone to discuss the potentially frightening topic of nuclear experimentation. Television in the mid-20th century was evolving into a major force, and Ray recognized its growing power. He guest starred on numerous shows such as The Shirley Temple Show, The Americans, and a TV adaptation of Going My Way, demonstrating his capability to adapt from stage to film to television. Then came 1963, the year everything changed for him in the public eye. He took on the role of Uncle Martin in My Favorite Martian, co-starring with Bill Bixby. The show's premise capitalized on America's fascination with space travel and extraterrestrials, wrapping comedic hijinks around the intriguing idea of an alien living incognito on Earth. The dynamic between Ray's otherworldly Uncle Martin and Bixby's befuddled Tim O'Hara made the series a comedic standout that soared in the ratings. In its first season, My Favorite Martian landed in the top 10, proving that viewers were eager for light-hearted science fiction in a primetime slot. Although the show dipped in subsequent seasons, it was 30th in the second season and fell to 45th in its final one. Its pop culture footprint was already established. The synergy between Ray and Bill Bixby extended off-screen, evolving into a lasting friendship that the two would cherish for years to come, despite the show's initial success playing the affable Martian typecast Ray. As many actors have discovered, a breakout role can be a double-edged sword. While audiences may love the character, casting directors might find it difficult to envision the actor in drastically different roles. Thus, after My Favorite Martian, ended in 1966, Ray struggled to land the variety of parts he craved. He returned to character actor work in the 1970s and 1980s, making guest appearances in Custer, The Wild Wild West, Love, American Style, The Rookies, Mission, Impossible, Ellery Queen, The $6 Million Man, Little House on the Prairie, and The Incredible Hulk. Notably, in The Incredible Hulk, he teamed up again with Bill Bixby, who played Dr. David Banner, demonstrating their ongoing camaraderie long after My Favorite Martian. In the Hulk episode titled My Favorite Magician, Ray portrayed Jasper, a small-time magician giving fans an in-joke nod to his earlier alien persona and his friendship with Bixby. From 1980 to 1992, Ray took on roles in 14 different films, among them the science fiction cult Favorite Galaxy of Terror and the teen comedy classic Fast Times at Ridgemont High. In the latter, which debuted in 1982, he played the stern but wry Mr. Hand. Known for its sharp insights into adolescent life and memorable comedic moments, Fast Times at Ridgemont High became a cultural touchstone of the 1980s, not to mention an early launching pad for stars like Sean Penn, Phoebe Cates, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Mr. Hand, constantly suspicious that his students, particularly Jeff Spicoli, Sean Penn, were up to no good, became one of the film's comedic anchors. Ray's ability to alternately exude warmth and exasperation resonated with moviegoers who recognized a little of their own high school experience in his portrayal of a no-nonsense teacher dealing with the free-spirited youth culture of the time. He continued to land roles that showcased his impeccable comedic timing and underlying gravitas. In 1984, Ray performed as a judge on an episode of Night Court, a sitcom that thrived on the eccentricities of overnight arraignments in a Manhattan municipal courtroom. 6 years later, in 1990, he returned to the legal world with a guest appearance on L.A. Law. Soon thereafter, his formidable skill was tapped for the role of Judge Henry Bone in Picket Fences, an offbeat drama series created by David E. Kelly. Judge Bone was originally meant to be a recurring role, but Ray's on-screen presence and popularity with audiences convinced the show's producers to promote him to a series regular. Treading a fine line between comedic dryness and moral fervor, Ray's portrayal was integral to the show's often quirky exploration of small-town American life and legal dilemmas. Further illustrating his adaptability, Ray also appeared in Steven Spielberg's anthology series, Amazing Stories. In 1985, he turned up briefly in the opening credit sequence, depicted as a caveman who reenacts a primitive version of storytelling for his tribe, a creative cameo that hinted at the storied lineage of human narratives, from ancient oral traditions to modern film and television. Before long, he also appeared on Star Trek, The Next Generation as Boothby, the wise and often crotchety head groundskeeper at Starfleet Academy. Audiences found Boothby to be a likable mentor figure to cadets such as Jean-Luc Picard in the show's backstory. Ray later reprised this same character for episodes of Star Trek, Voyager. His presence connected the timelines and series arcs, providing a consistent figure bridging different eras of the Star Trek universe, something deeply appreciated by devoted fans. In 1988, Ray guest starred in the popular horror fantasy show Friday the 13th, the series. He played an embittered aging comic book artist who comes into possession of a cursed comic book that allows him to transform himself into a killing machine. While the premise was deliberately outlandish, Ray's performance gave it a note of seriousness and poignancy, reminding viewers that he could inhabit any role and lend it depth. Some might have been surprised to see a veteran stage and screen actor in a supernatural horror show. But Ray's career path was so wide-ranging that he never hesitated to take on new genres. His talents were further showcased in the 1992 film adaptation of John Steinbeck's classic novel of Mice and Men, directed by and starring Gary Sinise alongside John Malkovich. Ray took on the role of Candy, the aging one-handed swamper whose old dog becomes a point of moral contention in the bunkhouse. The production was lauded for its faithful rendition of Steinbeck's Depression-era narrative. Ray's portrayal lent a weary dignity to Candy, a character who fears obsolescence in a harsh, unrelenting environment. This collaboration with Gary Sinise led to a reunion 2 years later when Ray participated in the miniseries adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand in 1994. Once again, he aligned himself with imaginative storytelling, finding his place in an epic confrontation between the forces of good and evil. Around this time, Ray earned 3 consecutive nominations for Best Supporting Actor in a drama series for his role on Picket Fences, a remarkable accomplishment in a field teeming with seasoned performers. He ended up winning the award twice in 1995 and 1996, a testament to how seamlessly he balanced comedic charm with serious dramatic chops, even in his advanced years. However, in 1994, as his career continued to flourish, he was diagnosed with lupus, an autoimmune disease that causes the body's immune system to attack healthy tissues. This diagnosis inevitably slowed him down. Lupus can lead to chronic pain, fatigue, and a variety of other debilitating symptoms, so it's no wonder he gradually began to reduce his workload. Ray's final film role was in Early Bird Special, an independent production that not many mainstream audiences got the chance to see, yet it stands as a poignant marker of an actor who had spent decades on stage and screen, from the days of traveling stock companies to high-profile sitcoms, major Hollywood movies, and network television dramas. Beyond his professional achievements, Ray was also a family man. On November 3, 1943, he married Ruth Calvert, a great-granddaughter of former Texas Governor Oren Roberts. Together they had one daughter, Catherine Ann. His marriage seemed to endure through the ups and downs of a peripatetic acting career, through all of the challenges that come from life in the entertainment industry. Sadly, on January 1, 2001, Ray Walston passed away at the age of 86 in his Beverly Hills home. His death came 6 years after his lupus diagnosis, a reminder that even someone with such vitality and dedication to performance could be halted by illness. He was cremated, and his ashes were entrusted to his daughter, Catherine Ann. Years prior, on December 8, 1995, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce had presented him with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, located at 7070 Hollywood Boulevard, recognizing his immense contributions to live theater. It is remarkable that, in an industry that often puts film and television above all else, he was specifically honored for his work on the stage, where he had first proven himself a capable, comedic and dramatic actor with an uncanny gift for connecting with audiences. Though overshadowed in popular memory by some of his more famous contemporaries, Ray Walston left behind a body of work that spans from the golden days of traveling theater companies to the rapidly evolving mediums of television and film in the mid to late 20th century. His remarkable journey can be traced through major productions, such as Damn Yankees and South Pacific, emblematic of the golden era of Broadway musicals. He worked alongside icons like Gwen Verdon, George Abbott, Katharine Cornell, Dean Martin, Kim Novak, and Gary Sinise. He managed to find new fans through appearances in Star Trek, The Next Generation, and Star Trek Voyager, forging a link between the classical stage tradition of Shakespearean plays and the futuristic domain of science fiction. His comedic portrayal in My Favorite Martian gave him a permanent place in TV lore, and it was arguably the spark for many subsequent shows that combined comedic scenarios with science fiction premises, including ALF in the 1980s and beyond. Yet Ray was not content to rest on the successes of a single type of role. He also championed unconventional opportunities, like narrating United States Department of Defense films, a more serious, documentary-style endeavor that stood in stark contrast to his comedic or theatrical achievements. From spear carrier in small New Orleans theaters to a star recognized on Hollywood Boulevard, his life exemplified the broad artistic transitions that took place in the 20th century United States. Of course, the success did not come without sacrifice. His typed casting after My Favorite Martian was discouraging. Although the show soared for a time, he had to fight to re-establish himself in roles that showcased his full range. Hollywood can be relentless. The same face that became beloved in the comedic realm can be dismissed when serious dramatic roles are on the table. One might imagine him recalling the intense days with Margot Jones or the stage glories of Damn Yankees whenever he felt discouraged about the narrow paths offered to him in subsequent years. Yet he soldiered on and discovered, especially with roles like Judge Henry Bone on Picket Fences, that there was indeed an audience that respected and admired his dramatic range. For many fans, Ray Walston lives on most vibrantly through the reruns of My Favorite Martian and memorable film cameos, such as his persistent Mr. Hand in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But any deeper exploration reveals a man who wholeheartedly committed to the craft in its every form: stage, screen, comedic, dramatic, mainstream, avant-garde. His was a life of perpetual reinvention, fueled by a passion for storytelling, for entertaining, and for diving deep into the human condition. The vow he made to enthrall audiences surely began when he was just a boy in those theaters of New Orleans, ushering people to their seats, cleaning up after the night's performances, and eyeing the stage with both curiosity and a secret longing. Reflecting on the trajectory of his life, one might dwell on the sadness of his final years marked by lupus and the relative quiet of his last roles. But the overarching story is not simply a sad ending. It is an enduring testament to how an actor can thrive when perseverance, curiosity, and love for the audience fuse together. The lumberjack's son from Laurel, Mississippi, reached extraordinary heights. He shared scenes with some of the finest performers in Broadway history, garnered the applause of critics, and clinched top awards for dramatic television roles, all while weaving comedic traditions into the mainstream of popular culture. Some musicals may fall out of vogue, certain shows fade to footnotes in pop culture references, but the brilliance of a performer with genuine artistry remains. Ray Walston's ashes may have been given to his daughter, returning him to the family that had once traveled from Mississippi to Louisiana and eventually to Texas. But his legacy continues to radiate across the mediums he touched. It's there, in the Tony Award his performance in Damn Yankees earned, in the comedic stylings that shaped My Favorite Martian, and in the dramatic weight he brought to Picket Fences. It can be found in the curiosity that longtime science fiction fans express when they discover his turn as Boothby on Star Trek, or the nostalgia of those who still laugh at Mr. Hand's frustrated attempts to educate a room full of slouching teenagers in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Even in the lesser-known corners of his filmography, like Kiss Them For Me, Convicts 4, or Wives and Lovers, we catch glimpses of a performer always ready for the next challenge. He was, by many accounts, a private and unassuming man off stage, not prone to self-aggrandizement or headline-grabbing antics. While some actors chase spotlight after spotlight, Ray approached acting much like a traditional craftsman would approach his trade, methodically refining each tool and technique, seeking to widen his repertoire, and focusing on the consistency of his artistry. The outcome of that approach spans more than 6 decades of involvement in major cultural phenomena, from the traveling stage companies of the 1930s to the blossoming of television in the 1960s, the 1960s, from the revival of classic musicals and film adaptations to the modern big-budget spectacles of 1980s Hollywood, and beyond, into the niche character-driven arcs of 1990s television dramas. When we consider his last years, the lupus diagnosis in 1994 casts a somber note. Despite this ailment that would slowly wear him down, he still managed to deliver performances worthy of award recognition and the admiration of viewers. An illness like lupus can be physically and psychologically draining, yet he maintained his dedication. Perhaps that single-minded devotion to entertaining is one reason he endeared himself to colleagues and fans, even from the vantage point of the modern era, where advanced medical care and heightened awareness of autoimmune conditions can improve quality of life. Coping with lupus is no minor feat. Ray Walston navigated it all with the grace and resilience that had propelled him forward from the days in dusty traveling troops. On that New Year's Day in 2001, Hollywood lost a stalwart character actor, a Broadway legend, and an all-around entertainer. The personal heartbreak belonged to his wife Ruth and his daughter Catherine Ann, but the sorrow extended to a community of fans and collaborators who recognized that a bright light had flickered out. He had experienced the evolution of entertainment from stage-based musicals and radio drama all the way to color television and beyond. From the vantage point of a new millennium, he might have been quietly proud to see how television had blossomed into a formidable storytelling medium, one that had come a long way from the 3-channel universe in which My Favorite Martian thrived. Though the official recognition on the Hollywood Walk of Fame specifically honored his contributions to live theater, the synergy of his career encompassed a broader tapestry. This synergy underscores a certain cross-pollination of mediums. He brought comedic flair and exacting stage discipline to the screen, and he infused the stage with an expressive realism often associated with film acting. History will place Ray Walston in that category of performer who quietly becomes indispensable. Essential not because he flaunted his stardom, but because he consistently elevated every project he touched. We see it in how audiences still grin at the mention of Uncle Martin or Mr. Applegate or Mr. Hand, recalling either comedic brilliance or sly, devilish wit.